Strangers on a Train is one of Hitchcock's great films. It isn't as well known as some of the later 50s films, but it begins a run of great Hitchcock films. He seems particularly engaged in this film. Everything, all the juices are flowing. He clearly relished this story, and right from the beginning, when he sets up the two strangers.
Strangers on a Train was the first novel by Patricia Highsmith, who has since become a very respected psychological mysteries and occult author. Hitchcock discovered her, loved this book, and bought it.
Highsmith is the mistress of suspense, and Hitchcock is the master of suspense. So in a way, they are perfectly matched. They were both attracted to a dark subject matter, the fact that irrationality, perverseness, and strangeness, and the desire to commit crime is odd in everybody, in normal people. And it goes back to Highsmith's idea that walking down the street you can see a sadist and a murderer. And also this common ground of exploring the concept of guilt, which goes through both of their works. The idea that some people are guilty for nothing and some people are terribly guilty for things that they do. Exploring those kind of ideas of duality, split identity, perverseness, all very fashionable concepts now, but both Hitchcock and Highsmith were exploring them 50 years ago.
When he started shooting at Warner Brothers, it was the first picture that he was actually making at Warner Brothers under his new contract. He told everyone on the set, "This is my real first film. This is the real beginning of my American career." But what he meant, I think, was that now he had found a subject that absolutely delighted him in this novel about two men who exchange murders. They meet on a train. They have no connection with each other, but each of them has someone he wants to get rid of, an inconvenient wife, an inconvenient father. And the crazy one suggests to the other one, Granger is warming up at the tennis game and he sees Bruno looking at him fixedly from the stands while everyone else's head is turning left and right. It was then turned over to a woman named Czenzi Ormonde, who was a collaborator of Ben Hecht. And she wrote, after conferring with Hitchcock, a script based on the treatment, while Hitchcock was already off, believe it or not, shooting the scenes in Washington and Connecticut without a script, which is not the first time he had done that. And then when he came back and started actually shooting, she was on the set writing. And it took several weeks into the production before they found an ending, before they found a way to sort of wrap it up.
Strangers on a Train obviously takes place on a train, a lot of it, some of it. Hitchcock had used trains before. The Lady Vanishes comes to mind, North by Northwest later. A train is a great place to have something happening because...
And he'd sit down on the couch and cross his legs and that was his, the end of his day, and we'd chat a little, and he'd read. Sometimes he'd read to me from The Little Prince, and then we'd have dinner, and I'd watch Hopalong Cassidy.
He never played villains until he did a Western called Vengeance Valley with Burr Lancaster just before Strangers on a Train, where he played a really kind of evil brother. And he made such a good villain in Strangers on a Train. But he's not somebody the public had ever seen before.
I was 8 years old, and I know Dad was supposed to be the bad guy in this movie, and I couldn't quite get my mind around that because Dad was always the good guy, But when I saw the movie, he was my favorite character in it. I mean, I was rooting for him, not because he was my dad, because he was just so, such a bad guy, such a great, charming bad guy.
I enjoy watching because there is a little bit of her in that character where she will speak her mind. She has the fun to her. She has the wit and is really not afraid to say whatever she feels she needs to say, which reminds us a lot of her still to this day.
I still think it'd be wonderful to have a man love you so much he'd kill for you.
My memories of Ruth Roman are I got on very well with her. We became very good friends, and we used to go down to Palm Springs on weekends. And I had a great time with her. And I'd known Farley Granger for years and years and years.
Marion Lorne gives a great performance as Bruno's mother. That's one of the great, great movie performances again. And you can sort of see where he comes from when you meet her completely daffy mother.
As a director, that absolutely befuddled him. You know, he had tons and tons of footage of this tennis match, and, you know, cutting it and getting it into a shapely order for his film drove him crazy because, you know, Hitchcock was a guy who really liked to storyboard every shot and used to say, well, I don't even like going out and shooting the movie. I've already shot it in my head, and I've already drawn it out on storyboards and all that stuff. So shooting it is almost an irrelevancy to me. He says, you know, I just want people to appear in the shot where I've imagined that they should appear, and I don't want them to argue with me. I mean, I think Hitchcock really thought that once you get on the set or on the location, the only thing that can happen to you is something bad. You know, somebody's going to upset his calculations or insist on doing the entrance a little differently than he imagined, and he's going to have, you know, a difficult time with that.
Sound and fury of the merry-go-round scene, dramatically worthwhile.
The music score of a film was extremely important to Alfred Hitchcock. He almost heard it before it was written. And I think when he worked with the composers, he was very, very respectful because they had a language that he didn't know. He couldn't read music. But they had to convince him in some way that what they were going to do would be right. And you know how he reacts if it isn't right. Out goes the score. So his work with Tiomkin was wonderful, I thought, because Tiomkin had written many, many wonderful scores and would continue to.
Dmitri's music for Strangers on a Train was definitely one of his finer scores because of the variety. Hitchcock had asked Dmitri to use popular songs for the merry-go-round scene, which he felt would...
Tiomkin was one of the top composers in Hollywood. And Hitch's feeling was, by the time you get to sit in his office and talk with him, you know what you're doing. So I'll trust you. Which was a wonderful, wonderful way for a director to be. We had that.
This is the beginning of a long collaboration between Alfred Hitchcock and Robert Burks. Almost all of the great American Hitchcock films were shot by Robert Burks, and they developed a language and a look together which just got more extraordinary in each successive film.
Robert Burks was nominated for Strangers on a Train, but I think, to me, the big disappointment was that Hitchcock was not and should have been. But I think the biggest disappointment to me is that Robert Walker wasn't nominated, because he could have actually been nominated in the Best Actor or Supporting Actor category for that performance. I mean, they could have snuck him in as supporting actor, and he was sensational. And he was never nominated for an Academy Award and died that year.
As I said, he had a problem with alcohol, although he never imposed it on us. You know, we never saw him that way. And I guess one night, my brother and I were having a sleepover at some friend's house. And I remember saying goodbye to Dad. He was in bed. He wasn't feeling all that well. And we were saying goodbye to him and see you tomorrow. And called in his psychiatrist to come. You know, she needed some help because he just was out of control. And so the psychiatrist came and gave him an injection, I think, of something. They didn't know in those days you don't give a serious depressant to somebody who's dead drunk. And it just shut down his system. And they called in the fire department, and they tried to resuscitate him, and they couldn't. You know, he just stopped breathing. I think I'm very fortunate that I had a father who did work that if he were alive today, I know he would be proud of, but that I'm proud of for him. You know, I mean, that's a gift.
Waiter, bring me some lamb chops, French fries, and chocolate ice cream.
Yes, sir.
Compartment B, car 121.
Yes, sir.
Oh, and waiter.
Yes, sir.
Guy, What'll you have?
No, thanks just the same, but
Oh,
I really
go on, order.
Well, I'll just have a hamburger and a cup of coffee.
The so-called British version of Strangers on a Train is a preview version, which was shown twice, and then some things were trimmed and some things were replaced. Actually, the ending that Hitchcock previewed in this case was a rather bland police station, previewed the bland one, and then Jack Warner told him to put the scene with the priest in, and that's the way the movie should be. The other print that turned up was mislabeled English version, but it was never shown anywhere.
My name is Bruno Anthony.
I think it's so good. I think the script is so good. I think the direction is so good. I think the acting is so good. And I love doing it. My experiences with Hitchcock were very meaningful to me. And I think that he was one of the all-time great directors of Hollywood.
Is your name Miriam? Your wife, my father. Criss Cross. Why, you maniac! But, Guy, you wanted it. We planned it on the train together, remember?
And have them say what you did. Mr. Haynes, how did you get him to do it?